All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I am doing this Facebook Live for primary night. So hopefully you got your ballots in because you have exactly an hour. 1 hour to get your ballots in before they lock the box and tell you to go away. So I am so happy to have Wanda Groen here with me. She is a candidate for Commissioner District 1, our former treasurer who served 2 terms, I think.
That's right.
And so she is hoping to get a advance in the primary. So let me ask you, how are you feeling tonight? Are you excited? You nervous?
I am excited. Having been through this before, I know what to expect. You don't ever look at the ballot returns the first night because they always change.
No.
The first time I ran for treasurer, I had lost. I refused to look at it. My husband was looking at the ballot count, and his words out of his mouth were nothing for a while. And I said, "So what does it say?" He goes, "I am so sorry." I'm like, "How bad is it?" Anyway, the second night, things had completely changed. And I had learned that one of my opponents, the other Republican who had been in the lead over me, went out and had a party and,
No.
and I imbibed quite a bit. And then the next night it was like, "Oh, what happened?" But anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, no, I got I guess it's better to be on my end of the spectrum. When I ran for office, I knew night one, okay, didn't work out, so I was able to get past it pretty quick. I can imagine just how rough it is just spending every single night wondering what the change was at 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. whenever they put the updates out. We're expecting some results to come in at 8. Yeah, probably 8:15, 8:30.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a lot of races that are going on here locally. We've got 2 commissioners that are up, so we're hoping that we get a Republican in the first because we have 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans running. Now the first
this is definitely the most hotly contested race I think that's going on in the county right now.
Oh yeah, Jill Johnson. I don't, I never want to say she's going to be fine because you never know, right? The voters are fickle. And but
they may not show up to vote.
Very true.
I think District 2 had very low voter turnout in the last election, is what I heard.
Yeah, no, it did. And countywide, what did you say we were at? Like 27%? It wasn't particularly
27% this morning. I haven't looked this afternoon.
So we could probably expect that to go up a few percentage points at least because there are a lot of people who vote the last day. Many of them are Republican. They seem to think they believe in a voting day and they're going to vote on that day. And so
I also did hear somebody told me yesterday that the voter turnout percentage in District 1 was the highest in the county. And again, I think it's because it's hotly contested.
So we've got 4 commissioners there. Jill Johnson is facing an opponent, I think, from the left and the right. And so she's going to have an interesting race there. But right now we're focused on you. You've done pretty amazing. You've gotten the word out. You've got signs up. You've, talked to the folks. You were just at National Night Out.
I have talked to a large number of people and have received very good response. And I listen to them talk, give them answers for what I think. And most of them tell me, that's a really good idea. And I'm going to vote for you. So I had somebody come up to me at the post office the other day, somebody I'd never met. I was there picking up my campaign mail, and she pulled up next to us. We were sitting there in the truck, and she says, "Are you Wanda?" And I said, "Yes, I am." She says, "Well, I voted for you." And she caught me by surprise. I probably should have gotten out of the truck and talked to her, but I was like, "Oh, well, thank you." She says, "Yeah, we need change, and I know that you'll bring change, and that's why I voted for you."
That is always
a stranger. I'd never met her before in my life.
Yeah, no, that's always a good feeling when people pull you aside and say they vote for you. And I think we are going to see what's going to happen. So my fear for District 1 has always been when you have 2 Republicans, it's possible you can end up with 2 Democrats because in Washington State, you have
the top 2.
Yeah, top 2. So it's a jungle primary, and the top 2 vote getters, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, Green Party, Libertarians, whoever gets the top 2 votes advances. And so that can result in 2 Republicans like we had in District 2 or 2 Democrats, which would be really unfortunate for us. But I don't think that'll happen. I really feel confident that you certainly did enough work that we should be able to get you across the finish line.
Yeah, well, it's not supposed to happen that way with a party system. I mean, the party's supposed to back the candidate, right?
Right.
But locally here, that didn't happen on either side in this district, and it also
Right.
didn't happen at the state. So the Republican parties and the well, not so much the Democrat Party at the state level, but the Republican Party really split, and it's not an effective way to get your candidate into office. I tried throughout my campaign to portray myself as just right of center. And I have a lot of supporters who are Democrat, and admittedly so. And when we talk, we find out we have the same views, and they'll say, well, I can't believe you're a Republican. And it's like, it's all about these labels. People,
Right.
unfortunately, with the media coverage and, President Trump being rather divisive his last term, and just in general, that's been the result. And it's too bad, because really a lot of us do have the same views, and we have the same points of view and the same morals and the same ethics, but we've separated ourselves into these divisive camps with these labels. And the media teaches us to point fingers at the other side, and that's when everything gets nasty. It's just too bad that our system and our culture has deteriorated this way. So I've tried to always put myself in the middle, and I'm pretty sure that that's where everybody else sees me too. That's how they describe it, just right of center.
Yeah, no, and you just touched on a really good point. One of the things that we need to stop doing to our local candidates is holding them to our national candidates.
Right.
And we are Republican for reasons that are our own, and people are Democrats for reasons that are their own. But I'll tell you, locally, on local issues, there are many Democrats who probably agree with me on just about everything.
Right. And it's the local government that affects your life the most.
Absolutely.
Of anything.
I can't remember anything that President Biden or Trump did that directly affected me. Right. I mean, that effects on the economy affect everyone, but I can't remember a direct effect. But I can remember, our commissioners having a direct effect on what I can and cannot do here in Island County. Mm-hmm. And so it's really important that the people who have the power here locally, where our house is, are people that have common sense and are qualified.
Especially when it comes to financial matters. Everybody doesn't like how their taxes are being spent. Everybody doesn't like the taxes are going up. A lot of them don't understand the way government works. I learned when I was walking around meeting and talking to people, especially in Langley, a lot of people don't understand the way the property tax or the appraisal system works.
Yeah.
I met a gentleman who owns an art gallery, or I should say a glass gallery in downtown Langley. I helped him out with his taxes. He was being taxed improperly. His leasehold improvements had been improperly appraised as his. He's renting a city building. The city building's exempt. So he shouldn't have been taxed on that. So I helped him. I went to the personal property appraiser and talked to her, and she got it straightened out at the state level, and he ended up getting a $3,000 refund. He didn't know that it was wrong. He just didn't like the fact that he was being taxed so much. This happens all over the place. People don't know about the senior exemptions. They don't understand the way the levies work, the school funding, any of that stuff. So my experience has come through, and that's where I was able to help a lot of people.
Yeah, and one thing that we need absolutely for a candidate that's running for commissioner is somebody who knows how to set a budget.
Yeah.
That is the job of the county commissioner.
And read it. And watch it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you from reading it a couple times myself when I ran, it takes a while before you understand what you're looking at. And then I'm sure it takes much longer to write it. And
there's so many programs that are grant funded. There are programs that are there are funds that are split apart from the department, so it's hard to recognize. For example, Public Works consists of roads, solid waste, the Public Works Department that does the projects, and I think they have some other funds as well. Not facilities. ER&R is theirs. Anyway, they're all broken into separate funds. So if a candidate, I will quote one of my opponents, said there's $10 million in the Public Works budget this year, that was absolutely false. When I looked at the budget, I could see that the roads budget alone was $45 million. So he was way off. So, you have to know how to read the budget as well. You have to be familiar with the county funds and how things work. And that's the experience I bring to the office.
Yeah, and as our former treasurer, nobody knows the budget better than you.
Yep.
So that is definitely something that you've got going for you. You've got one candidate running to your left, and I don't do attacks on local candidates because we live next to them, but I will say you've got one candidate running to your left, and I struggle to see what her qualifications are for the role. And now I'm a firm believer that you can become qualified by studying, but I haven't heard anything from this particular candidate that makes me think she knows what's going to happen, or how to work a budget, how to write a budget, how to work with people, um, and not create problems. I mean, so it's really an important election that we've got here, and it can have a very serious impact on what happens locally.
Well, each one of us definitely has our strengths, and I'm not going to be the first person to deny that we need youth at the county.
Yeah.
The average age of the employees is somewhere in the 50s. I would say that in the department heads and the elected officials, it's higher than that. So we definitely need youth to be brought in. But yes, experience, especially in government, because it's hard to learn. It's so different from everything else. But yeah, definitely each one of us has our strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And we bring different things to the campaign and to the office. It's just going to be up to the voters to decide, who they think is more qualified and who will bring the change that they need, and who fits their ideal candidate profile, who they're going to be able to talk to if they have a problem, who's going to be in the office if they have a problem, who will get the problem resolved, and who knows how to fix it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. I'm a big proponent of experience when you have the option. Mm-hmm. Especially when it comes to setting our budget. The commissioners basically serve, for people who don't know, they serve as our county council and the mayor. Mm-hmm. Basically, right. You got there's three people who hold both of those roles.
Right. So they're the legislative branch of government. Right.
Right. With no executive oversight. So that that's important. So it's very important that we have people who are ready to roll. So I'll ask one more time. You said you went through it before. You don't watch the returns at night. How are you feeling? Because about 45 minutes, it's going to close.
I am seriously. Well, it's not going to be there at 8:00, and I'm going to tell you that it's going to be Saturday at least before you get a firm idea of what it's looking like, and if there's a recount because it's close, it's going to be a month away. So having been through this before with myself and other candidates I've helped, where the races have been close, yes, I want to know. I want to know so I can move on with my life, like I'm sure everybody else does. But I'm not looking at this like a first-time candidate would be. I could see me losing. I could see me winning. Let me put it this way. I've made plans for both things. It would be unlucky to talk about if I lost, what would happen. But I'm prepared.
Yeah, no, I think we don't want to say that yet. I think we're in.
And besides, I've been told that if I don't get elected, my skills are very marketable, and I could find something else right away.
Oh yeah, no, I'm sure you can. I mean, you served as a county treasurer and did well for 8 years, so there is never a lack of need for financial experts.
True.
True. Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, well, thank you for calling me. I appreciate the audience and appreciate your interest. And I hope that your audience is interested in what I had to say. I hope to be around on the other side, and I look forward to talking to everybody if I do.
Well, yeah, no, I'm a believer. I think it's going to happen. So, and don't say the word recount. We don't want any of those this year. No recounts ever.
It's the democratic process, Richard.
Let's just have a clear winner, guys. Yeah. Can you come together and make a decision?
Yeah. At least there's no Chads.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah, no. So, I mean, they are easy to count. And last time we had a recount was for the assessor position here in Island County. It was within 12 votes. I was
helping him with his campaign, so I went through it with him.
Yeah, it was within 12 votes that Kelly Mock won.
Right. And it was actually not until after the election was certified. They had to certify by the end of the month, but they didn't finish the recount until after that. So it
was crazy close. I mean, 12 votes out of thousands.
And I don't know if you remember, but I was talking about the first time I ran for treasurer. When in the primary, I was involved in a recount. I won by 11 votes.
That's just nuts.
There were two
You know?
Republicans, and then the incumbent, who was my boss before, the treasurer, and we two Republicans. It was 11 votes apart.
Wow.
So I've been through this before.
All right. Well, it's great talking to you, and
Thank you so
I'm
much.
excited. And if it does look like early on tonight that you made it through, I'm going to call you, and you might yell at
welcome
me
to
because
do
you were
so.
asleep, but you might not pick up. Well, thank you so much. It's great talking to you, and
Thank you, Richard. Always
I
good
will
to
chat
speak
with you
with you.
soon.
All right,
All
take
righty.
care. Good night.
Night. All right, and we just got off with Wanda Grown, and I have now my friend David Adams, who is the chairman of the GOP of Island County. How are you doing today?
A little nervous, a little pensive, like
You don't need to be.
everyone.
Well, so I wanted to pick your brain because when I have candidates on, it's great to hear from them. I just had Wanda Grown, and but I can't ask them these kinds of questions. So I'm going to ask you, what are your predictions? I'm going to put you on the spot because, and then I'll make some predictions too. Put you on the spot. What are your predictions for some of the races that are going on? Who do you think is going to advance for governor? Who do you think is going to advance in all those races?
Reichert for the governor.
Okay.
Lieutenant Governor, I think Hutchinson, right?
No, so Hutchinson's not running. We've got Denny Heck running on the Democrat side. We've got Bob Hagelin. We've got Dan Matthews.
Dan Matthews, yeah. For Lieutenant Governor, I think our former congresswoman from Southwest Washington is going to move forward for Commissioner of Public Lands.
Jamie Herrera Butler.
Yeah. Locally, I think that Ron Mazzal will go through.
So above or under, do you think he'll be number one, or do you think he'll be number two?
I think he'll be number one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure the spread there between the Democrat and himself, but he'll come out number one. I think Yvonne's going to take it in the 10th district over Kerry Kennedy. I think that, of course, he's the only one running against Dave Paul. So I think that, it's been a long day, hasn't it?
Gary Ray. You're talking about Gary Ray.
Gary Ray's going to be fine. I think Jill will come out okay. She'll come out number one on top. She's just tough to beat.
Yeah, she's almost undefeatable. Now I don't want to jinx that because we really do want her to win. And she's running against a Democrat who is, by all means, she has a very huge social media following. She is very well spoken. She brings some youth and some energy that we haven't seen in Island County. I'm not saying that everyone's old. Jill, you're not old. And she's coming on tonight too. So I want to make sure I clarify that. But I really, seeing Jill Johnson go through this twice now.
Yeah.
She just doesn't lose. She's just so tapped in to the people of Island County.
And, she's made some votes that have upset some people, but overall, she's a good Republican vote and a fighter on that commission.
Yeah, no, Jill Johnson is definitely my favorite to get reelected. She is also, she's done an amazing job, I think. Yeah. And you said, are we going to agree every single time? No. If you want your commissioner to agree with you 100% of the time, run for commissioner.
That's it.
I mean, but no, Jill Johnson's just been fantastic. She's our only voice in the county commissioners right now, and she has been a strong voice. And you may notice that, we've got two Democrats. They could steamroll over us, but they don't, because Jill Johnson, I think, is just fantastic at the role. She knows what she's doing. And I was excited to vote for her. I marched for her in the parade, and I'm excited to see her get through the finish line. So moving on, for District 1 Commissioner, who do you think is going to advance?
I think Steve Myers.
Okay.
I think he has the chance. I know we've talked about this and you disagree, but he's run an aggressive campaign.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. Steve Myers very well could. I have said though that I fear that we could have two Democrats advance, and because it's District 1.
I think that Marie Shimada has been in the news too much negatively, particularly with Debbie Bay and the Edmonds Community College issue, that people are going to sit back, I think, and say, I like her, just not now. She's just not ready. And I think that's going to pull that vote back from her and either give it to Wanda, because she was treasurer for 2 terms and has proved herself, or give it to Melanie Bacon. I think Steve's going to come out on top, because when I'm out and others are out, I'm hearing this, that Democrats come up and say, I'm not voting for Trump, but I like that Steve Myers. I voted for him. And I've never heard that down here before. So I'm thinking that's going to put him in, if one or possibly a close 2. Yeah. The top 2 that come through are going to be neck and neck. And I think it'll be.
Well, I will tell you, you again hit on something that Wanda Groen had hit on too. We've got to get away from, wanting all of our voters to also support Trump. Yeah. Look, people have their own national views. They do not have to agree with us, but we can agree on local views. I cannot tell you how many Biden voters voted for Jill Johnson. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And the reason is because she is able to reach across the aisle and get those moderates and get some Democrats, which you have to do in this county to win.
Yeah.
This isn't Oklahoma. We don't just get to steamroll over everybody who doesn't agree with us that, America's just going to be blood red.
Well, at GOP of Island County, and this, we've made the push, and the push quite strongly, that if you announce you're a Republican, if you hold to the principles of the Constitution, that's good enough for us.
Yep.
We're here to elect Republicans. We're not going to get into a litmus test of a MAGA Republican versus a Dan Evans type of Republican versus, whatever. If you're a Republican, we're behind you. To be quite honest, that's very pragmatic. We don't have the votes to start turning them away.
We don't. We do not have the votes to turn away even a single voter. And if somebody, I had some people who told me, they weren't voting the way I voted nationally, even for Congress. But they were, supporting some of our local candidates, and that's okay. We don't have to agree on the national scene. We can agree on the local scene.
Well, if we, like at the South Woodby Fair, we had a booth, and we had Democrats coming up and said, well, I like Steve Myers. I'll use him as an example, because they did talk about a few other local candidates. Mm-hmm. And I voted for him, but I can't stand Trump. Well, that's fine. It's your vote. But quietly, I'm sitting there going, yeah, I won. I got you through a candidate to vote Republican. If it's once, I'll come back at you later on.
Well, and then we need to also take a look at what it is that these candidates who are getting Democrat votes are doing, and then we need to emulate that, right? Yeah. And I'll tell you, the 2 candidates that we should be looking at and acting like they are is Jill Johnson and Ramazal locally. Why? Yes. Because they won.
Yes. And if you look at how they won, they talk about a variety of issues, and they use common sense.
Yep.
They don't sit there and say, as a conservative, we have to blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm a conservative. But again, if you talk to voters in Island County and you are able to, talk about housing, talk about economics, talk about, jobs and public safety, most people will do the comparison between the Democrat running, who's going more and more and more to the left, and they'll see, well, okay, this candidate, this Republican, I can vote for. I like what he's saying or she's saying on these issues, and we
Right.
have to keep doing that.
Well, and one thing that we need to do in this state particularly is we need to try and get away from the label, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
reason that it's hard to run as a Republican is because the brand is terrible.
Yes.
The Washington State Republican Party is partially to blame for that.
Yep.
And it's, there's some work that needs to be done. The role of a party is not to pick winners and losers. You can argue with me all day long, but you would be wrong. Their job is not to pick winners and losers. Their job is to build the brand that a lot of the candidates can run on. And the brand that they build has to be palatable in the state they live in.
Yep.
Right now, the WSRP isn't doing that. And I think that's part of the reason for their fundraising woes. I think that's part of the reason why they're endorsing candidates that have absolutely no prayer.
Yes.
And it's just there are some tweaks that need to be made.
Right.
And you think I'm hoping that we make them soon, because when you have a 40-year strong losing record, I would hope that everybody gets together and thinks, okay, something we're doing is very wrong in this state. We need to refresh. And I think the way that we refresh is we take a look at candidates like Ron Mazzal and Jill Johnson, see what they're doing, implement that in the strategy, build a brand off that, and you might see some more wins.
Well, you've also got to take into consideration how much money they raise. Okay. Yeah. And you have to ask yourself, how are they doing that? Well, because they're not crazy. They're talking common sense to tough issues. And donors will sit back, particularly the big donors, going, that kind of makes sense to me. I can give this person, a lot of money. I can bundle. I can do what I can to support them. And they'll do what needs to be done for the state or the 10th legislative district, for example, where if you get someone who's a raving extreme right winger, the money's not going there.
No,
and it makes
I'll tell you, people that have money usually are very good at making money. And I'll tell you, people who are good at making money do not like extremism. No. They don't like extremes. They like common sense, down to earth people that they can depend on. Right. And you were right. I mean, Ron Mazzal, I'll have to check again, but last I checked, I believe Ron Mazzal is the #1 fundraiser for Republican senators in Washington State.
Yeah, I think I read that he had raised something like $700,000, which is
he's up there.
Number.
It's a ridiculous number for a local Senate candidate. So that tells me that he has tapped into something that people, one, are willing to invest to keep him, and two, they're willing to do whatever, they believe in him enough that they're willing to make the bet that he's going to win.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure. So I'm going to go ahead and do my guesses for how this primary is going to turn out. I agree with you that Dave Reichert is going to pull through. I think it's going to be a Dave Reichert versus Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson will get the most votes only because his Democratic opponent isn't that strong against him. Yeah. He's done a good job of wrapping up the Democrats, whereas Dave Reichert has a guy running to his right, Semi Bird, who I think will eat up some of those votes. What I'm going to look for in the governor's race is, did Bob Ferguson get over 50%? If he didn't,
that's going to be key.
Yeah. And then I'm going to be looking for, did Kerry Kennedy and Yvonne combined get over 50%? And I'm going to be looking at Gary Ray. I want to see if he can get close. If Gary Ray can get close, he's going to see a lot of money influx into his campaign. I think that I really want to say that one of our Republicans is going to get across, so I'll say that in District 1. But I will also say it is very possible we could have 2 Democrats on the District 1 ballot. And then my other prediction is that Jill Johnson is going to slaughter all opponents, walk away, and be crowned again. Well, not really crowned, but you know what I mean. All right. Well, hey, it's great talking to you. Bob Hagelin, Lieutenant Governor. I think he's going to make it. I think he's going to get through.
I think so too.
All right. Well, it's great talking to you. And I'm probably going to call you tonight if something crazy happens. So just be ready for why is my phone ringing at 9:15? This crazy guy.
I'm up. I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bed. I'm going to be crunching numbers all night.
Yeah, no, it's going to be wild. So I am hopeful. Wanda Groan said something that I did not want to see was that, oh, there might be a recount. No recounts, people. Make a decision.
No, no.
Um,
And
so
I'm really hoping that the Republican that loses in the primary supports the Republican that made it through.
yeah,
That they
I hope
come
so
out
too.
and put it all aside and say, I'm behind this, the winner 100%. Because if
Well,
they don't, they're slitting their own throat too.
exactly. Yeah, we can't afford a Bob Ferguson. All right. Well, thank you so much, and look forward to talking to you. And thank you for coming on.
You take care.
All right, you too. And now I am joined by District 2 Commissioner Jill Johnson, who is running for re-election. We were just talking so much smack about you. I don't know if you know. So I'm just kidding.
I mean, I enjoyed I heard a little of it. Of course, I was hugely flattered. And the fastest way to my heart is through my ego. But I really enjoy she's got some common sense part. That's just because I'm not smart enough to have anything else, right? So I just look at the problem and I'm like, well, the obvious answer is probably the right answer. So,
Yeah.
Not overthinking it has so far been the key to success.
Well, yeah. Well, you've been successful, I think, 3 times already, and we're going for number 4, correct?
Yes, this is the 4th.
So I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling about the primary? Who do you think is going to advance with you? Because I think if you didn't advance in the primary, I bet all my money.
I'm not as confident as other people are that I'm going to be in the number 1 spot. I looked at the results from the last election, and there were 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans, right? So the Democrats split and the Republicans split. That's how we got 2 Republicans through. There's 1 Democrat this time. There's 2 Republicans. Low voter turnout. If we split that in any type of way, she'll just sail through with the Democrat vote. And that, I've never been in that position before, but I think it mathematically could happen this time if people just vote party votes. I'm hoping that I have a solid enough reputation to break through that. But I'm also like 3rd on the ballot, right? So you have to pass a Republican man, you have to pass a Democrat woman, and then you have to get to my name. And so I also understand there's just voter reality of voters who they don't know who any of the 3 people are, right? So, I feel confident that I'm in the top 2. I'm not as confident that I'm in number 1, but I'm never confident also,
Well, you taking it seriously every single time like you could lose is probably one of the reasons why you win. So, you keep that same energy, but I am going to go ahead and say I think you probably break 50% in this race.
Well, that would be amazing, and I would be thrilled.
Yeah, and I think you will be number 1. I think the Democrat will advance with you because there are enough people that'll just vote Democrat. So I think you're going to be facing your Democratic opponent, and then it's going to come down to experience, what people are going to do, and your Democrat opponent says she's going to do all sorts of things that the school board does, and that the hospital board does.
Yeah.
And, she actually put out a post. I think she may have seen one of our podcasts. She put out a post saying, well, I can advocate for these things. Well, yes, you can. You can do that right now. You don't need to be a commissioner to do it.
That's right. Right.
Where have you been?
That's the issue, right? That's my across the board issue is that you've lived here less than 2 years. You've identified everything that is wrong that you're going to fix. You haven't been involved in fixing any of it or speaking out on behalf of anything. It's just, I rolled into town, so I'm going to take the top job at the county. I mean, pay your dues, get involved. I learn your community. And then, she's an intelligent woman, but definitely not connected to what the local needs are at all. And I first I thought that kind of was offending to me a little bit, but I'm like, that's not where I'm offended. I'm offended for the citizens. It's like they deserve somebody who knows who they are representing them.
Yeah, and also somebody who understands the job that they're running for.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, to say you're going to fix all the stuff in the school board, I know for a fact you have given your opinion to people on the school board, solicited or not.
Yeah.
And you've probably given your opinion to the hospital board of things that they should do, but that's not your job. Your job does not entail being able to fix those things.
Right.
And you being the commissioner does not make your advocacy any better. If anything, it makes it worse because there's some things you can't say.
That's right.
So
right. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just you know, it's one of those things that makes me a little bit sad, I think. And then also she's got a lot of national issues she likes to use as polarizing points. And I'm like, well, those aren't local issues. They have nothing to do with this job. If people don't want to vote for me because they don't agree with where I stand on an issue that I have a vote on, I totally respect that, right? You can't be all things to all people on every issue. That is not leadership. That is what a politician is, right? That's
Right.
not, I don't have the gift. But I'm okay with that if we disagree on the issues. I'm having a little bit of a struggle with not knowing what the issues are, right? Like, I don't know how to engage you when you're debating something that has zero to do with this job. So I just keep talking about the job.
Exactly. You know, a lot of the national issues that they're bringing up, I mean, if she wants to fix those, she needs to be running for Congress against Rick Larson and you know, then she can have an effect on that. Even in Olympia, she can't fix those national issues. So, you know, Ron Mazzal can't change it. She would need to run for Congress and then push to have 218 other people agree with her on that issue so she could pass it through the House and 51 senators and a friendly president.
Right.
Commissioner is not where it's at. You are not going to, and the issues she's bringing up are a non-issue in the state. It is settled. It is settled here. It is codified in our Constitution. So,
you have to be from the state maybe to know that, or at least lived here longer than 2 years.
That's a fair point. Maybe we are being too mean because she's not been here.
Different ideas and different energy and different generations and all the things, right? I really nobody's entitled to these jobs. These jobs are privileges. This isn't my job. But I do want the best for the county, genuinely. And I just don't understand at all, even the strategy of some of the Democrats right now. You know, if you got your way, you would send Janet Sinclair to the Senate. You would get rid of Melanie and put Marie in there, and you get rid of me and put my opponent in there. Well, if Janet's not there, you have nobody with any experience. You cannot look me in the eye and tell me that you care about the future of this county and advocate for a change on the Board of County Commissioner that wholesale.
Yeah, we have our elections on off years. Like Janet runs on a different year to prevent that from happening.
Right. And so it kind of hurts my heart even a little bit with her to watch her push so hard for Marie against her colleague, because I tend to not do that against my colleagues, although arguably you might say I'm doing it right now. And then to push hard for my opponent, and then to want a job where she's not going to be there. I question her loyalty to the community she serves, right? Like you should be sacrificing for it, not using it as a stepping stone. I don't understand it, but again, different people are motivated by different things, and I should probably be nicer. We've heard many times from many people.
I expect that you are going to be just fine. We are going to be pushing for you very hard. And I'll tell you one thing that has changed in the positive for you is that last time you ran, I mean, your party wasn't that united behind you because they thought they knew better, and we, people put up another guy to run against you. Right now, I think the Republican Party is very solidly behind you, and you have a lot of Democrat support, which is a good thing. You have a lot of moderate support, which is how you win as a Republican in Washington State.
I mean, really, you pick a party at this level. We don't caucus, right? So you pick a party at this level to kind of give people your philosophy around governing at this local level. So I like limited government for the most part. I don't love unnecessary taxes, but I'm not an anti-taxer. I prefer if we tax that we have a legitimate reason for taking the money. And so I tend to be pretty pragmatic. I always worry about government getting bigger than the private sector because I read those Ayn Rand books when I was in my 20s, young 20s, and well, that just framed up thought process for me. So those are the kind of things that I think about with government. And at the local level, they tend to be pretty conservative issues. And so I stick with the Republican and the Republican brand because I believe in those core values, local control. I don't like the state making as many decisions as they make. I think the local community should make decisions about their own destiny as much as possible. And that used to be a real conservative value. And so, but then there are other issues where I've had to learn and try to understand why I'm so resistant to certain concepts. And people have brought me different points of view, and you've got to hear all those because it doesn't matter if you agree with someone or not. You're still their voice, right? You may not end up in the same place as them, but they need to know that you heard them and that you can repeat back to them what they said and what it is they care about. So I do think I get votes on both sides of the aisle somewhat because I don't shut people out, or I try not to. I'm not always perfect at that. There are times where I've had enough, but I try and I've learned too. You always learn from people with different perspectives. It's like, why do you think that? And then they explain it and you're like, oh, I can see how you got there. Right. And that's always valuable. I find.
Well, I am really excited to support this campaign, your reelection campaign. I was really excited, and my baby was there too to march for you.
Yeah, we put you in the video. Did you see?
Yeah,
you were in one of our videos.
I didn't see the video.
Oh yeah,
I saw pictures.
You put one of the pictures in a video.
Oh, okay. Well, perfect. All right. So I'll have to take a look at that. But thank you so much for coming on, and we are excited to support you. I am firm in my belief that you are going to do extremely well in this primary, and I believe you are going to get reelected. And I think you deserve it. You're the only commissioner we have that represents the voice of what you just said, supporting local government. And it's so important to have an experienced person in the office because we've got some big decisions that are coming up. One is a new prison that we need to figure out our funding for. We need somebody who has experience in managing a budget, which is why I was just on with Wanda Groen, and I said, well, you would be, she's been in local government. She would be an acceptable shift if we were going to shift. It's so important that we have people who understand the budget for this job specifically. If you're a good orator and you want to tell everyone and pontificate about all the great things that your party is about, you should run for the legislature in Olympia or for Congress.
Yeah.
Or for governor, right? A place where that is useful. And we do need good orators, right? But for this job here, we need good administrators. Right. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost in the translation. They think it's a legislative job. It's not. It's an administrative job with some legislative duties. So I hope I explained that right. You can go ahead and tell everyone if I was just way off the mark.
I mean, I feel like county commissioners, not to put myself or any other commissioner down, but it might be the nerdiest branch of government there is, right? You want to talk about septic systems? My gosh, so do I, right? How does the septic system work? So, septic systems and roads and all these kind of infrastructure things, setbacks from streams, right? I can talk about that for forever. And again, I joke about we don't get invited to dinner parties. No, that's true. We are boring people. But somebody has to care about the boring, right? Because those details matter in daily lives. And it makes me happy that my brain works that way, that I can care in this way that, a lot of people don't see and maybe don't value, but I know is very valuable.
Yeah. Well, you've done a tremendous job as our commissioner. We are extremely excited to support you, and we will know in about 15 minutes. Well, 15 minutes, the ballot's closed. We'll probably know about a half hour after that what some of these returns look like. So I'll probably
talk about me and talk about everybody else. What else you think about the other races? I'm bored with myself. Let's talk about other people now.
All right. I'm going to do some predictions, and then you can do some predictions too if you're willing to. One, I think for governor, it's going to be Bob Ferguson versus Dave Reichert.
I agree.
For lieutenant governor, I think it's going to be Denny Heck versus Bob Hagelin.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah.
And for attorney general, I think it's going to be Mark Brown versus Pete Serrano.
Yeah, that's right. I think you got that one too.
And
I say if it's close to my ballot, then I'm agreeing with you.
yeah. So I think we're going to have. I love Sewell Peterson for Commissioner of Public Lands. She's a sweet lady. She's very qualified, but I think we're probably going to have Jamie Herrera Butler advance because she's just raised so much money. Yeah, she's got the name ID. She can also reach across the aisle in ways which many Republicans cannot because she, showed that she is not just loyal to the party 100% of the time. So in this state, I guess that'll benefit you. But if Sue does advance, I'll be so excited for her because she's a scientist. She's a lovely woman. I've had her on. For District 10, obviously Gary Ray and Dave Paul are going to advance. I'm going to be looking to see how close Gary Ray is to Dave Paul. His campaign's just kicking off, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Dave Paul with more votes. But if Gary Ray comes close without having spent any money, that would tell me something. That would tell me that's a race worth investing in. And then we've got Yvonne Gerardo and running against Clyde Shavers and Kerry Kennedy. I'm going to tell you the truth. The prevailing wisdom is that Yvonne's going to advance. Kerry Kennedy's got name ID here in Island County, and Yvonne has not campaigned as much as she probably should here.
She hasn't campaigned visually, right? She's done a lot of direct voter contact. And I think Kerry has just gone with, I'm going to push my yard signs out and get my name ID up that way, where Yvonne's been much more targeted. Prevailing professional wisdom is the targeting works, right? But I don't know in these kind of down ballot races in a primary, middle of summer, right? If people don't just go to the name they recognize. And so I think you're right. I don't think that one's a done deal.
Yeah, no, that's going to be the one that's that. And so for Commissioner District 1, I just got off.
I've been weighing in.
Yeah, I just spoke to Wanda Groen. I hope either Wanda Groen or Steve Myers gets through. My fear is 2 Democrats will advance because we're dealing with 70% Democrat area. And if Marie Shimada and Melanie Bacon both perform well, it doesn't leave a whole lot of scraps for the 2 Republicans who are.
That race has been so ugly a little bit. It's so mean that I don't know if people are turned off by the candidates. I don't know. I thought that the recent articles that came out in the newspaper would have been enough for people to take a pause on that kind of Marie momentum that exists. But then people were fighting back for her in the comment section. So I'm like, well, her folks are really loyal. Melanie's people are also loyal. And then it's really, if we had 1 Republican, I'd say for sure we were getting one through. But I don't know with 2. I think Steve Myers has put together an incredible campaign. But again, I don't totally understand who the voters are down there. I know who Steve's talking to and who he's hearing from. I know people Wanda's talking to and who she's hearing from. They're all hearing different feedback on different issues, which kind of tells me that we've got some special interests, people speaking to them, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know how broad those interest groups are in that district. But that polarization on the Democrat side is, I'd kind of like it to end in the primary because I don't necessarily want to walk through it for 3 more months. It's a bloodbath. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's a mean one.
Yeah,
but
no, it is.
It's not me for once, right? So I'm
right. I know. Yeah, yours has been super clean.
Everybody, I've got nice, respectful opponents. I don't tend to sling mud unless somebody really slings it, and then I'll, But in general, I don't enjoy that. So. It's kind of nice, but it's also weird. I'm a little like off kilter because usually you're like fighting for your life. And I'm like, well, what's going on? Like, so.
Well, this time you got a lot of support, and I'm excited to see it advance. So I've got my next speaker coming on, but I
Okay.
wanted to thank you so much for
But what's
coming
your
in.
Ron and Janet percentage? What do you think your Ron and Janet percentage is?
Ron, 53%.
Wow. Well, he'll be disappointed if he gets 53.
Well, I think well, part of the reason I say that is because low voter turnout.
Yeah.
The highest turnout in Island County is South Whidbey.
Yeah.
Now Arlington being advanced into LD10 or being absorbed into LD10 helps Ron Mazzol out a lot. So I don't know, but I think Ron pulls it out.
All right. I'm going closer to 55, but that's just because I really care about that race. So I'm gonna go for my guy at 55.
53 is still win.
I get it. I know 50% plus one vote is the victory, but
Right.
I'd like to make our point.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see how those predictions play out, and I will chat with you soon. I'll probably call you tonight.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Have fun.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.
And my next speaker I have on here is the chairman of the Island County Republican Party, Tim Haselow. I am sorry, I was 6 minutes behind schedule. It just started 6 minutes late and it just rolled on that.
God, man.
But it's good to see you, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the local races that are going on, as well as the governor race. So you and I did not necessarily see eye to eye on the governor's race for this primary. So what are your predictions, one, for the primary, and what do you think? Let's go through the races here. I'll just name them, and you tell me what your prediction is. So let's start with governor.
You're going to put me right on the spot, right up front. We're not going to have any conversation. There's not going to be any, tit for tat, back and forth. I think this, I think that. You're killing me, Richard.
We're going to do that, but a lot of people are interested in the primary. So, with the primary,
let's do it. Let's do it.
So let's start from the top, work our way down. So technically, the top is actually the Senate. So for Senate, who do you think is going to advance? I think it's probably obvious.
Well, I mean, I think it's a given. Raul Garcia is the only person on the Republican side that has actually been. Oh man, my cat's about to crawl on my camera.
That'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm beating my dog right now. So anyway, this is what happens when you live on a farm. See, yeah, I think on that race, I think it's going to be a tough race. I don't know if the Republicans are going to be able to pull that one off, but I think Raul Garcia is our best chance to do it.
So you say it's going to be a Maria Cantwell Raul Garcia race?
Yes, 100%.
Okay, I agree.
I don't see any other candidate in there that has a chance. So.
Raul Garcia is actually doing pretty well. So I agree. It's an uphill battle. It's always an uphill battle in the state, but Raul Garcia is the guy that could do it. If anybody was going to do it. So let's go down to Lieutenant Governor. Who do you think is going to advance?
Oh boy, that's actually kind of a tough one. I personally like Bob Hagelin, and I'm not even going to talk about the Democrats, by the way. I'm just going to talk about the Republicans, because the Republicans and conservatives and even some libertarian type folks are my people, right? But Bob Hagelin, he is the people's candidate for sure. He gets to the root of things. He talks to people, understands people. He's got decent name recognition. He's ran for a couple things in the past. So he's kind of built up his brand, so to speak. He was a chairman of the Snohomish County Party for a while. That probably helps a little bit. So I think Bob Hagelin's going to advance. I think it's going to be close. Yeah, but I think Bob Hagelin's going to pull it off.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be Bob Hagelin versus Denny Heck. And because there's two Republicans, obviously Denny Heck's going to get the most votes, just because the Republicans.
I'm not saying his name.
Well, we got to talk about these people, but no.
I'll let you say
it. So how about Attorney General?
Oh, well, that's an easy one. That's an easy one. We only have one real Republican choice, right? And when you think about
Pete Serrano, but we also have two Democrats. Which one of those do you think would advance?
I haven't paid attention at all to the Democrats. Like I said, I'm looking at the Republicans. My job is to get Pete Serrano, and he's gotten my support. He's gotten some of my money, but my job is to get him across the finish line. I'm not worried about the Democrat. That's going to come here, starting about midnight tonight.
Now, the rest of them of the statewide are pretty, obvious. There's only two people running. So the other one that's going to be interesting, this one is going to be interesting, is Commissioner of Public Lands. We have two Republicans running, both of which are very well known. We have Jamie Herrera Butler and Sue Cool Peterson. And so who do you think is going to advance in that?
Well, you know me, I'm not a shy guy. I say it how I see it, and I see it how it is in a lot of cases. And Jamie Herrera Butler does not need to advance. If she advances, I'm going to be, I'm conservative Republican all the way, and I will pinch my nose and suck it up and vote for her just because she's not a Democrat. Other than that, I give her no support. I give her no props. She abandoned her party. She disintegrated the trust of the party in the state of Washington and her own county in her abilities when she voted for the impeachment of Trump. So all that aside, Sue's a much nicer lady. Sue is a smart woman. Sue is a scientist.
She's an actual scientist. She's the only scientist running. Sue is and Sue is not a divisive person at all.
No, and she will bring everybody together.
Yeah, I will say Jamie Herrera Butler has done a fantastic job of fundraising. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Well, she's raised a lot of money.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, but you know where that comes from, right? We'll get into these things as time goes on. And I'll probably be one of your most divisive talkers, but you know how we are. We just converse.
Right, but that's why I invited you on. So now we're going to go to the big one for governor. Who do you think is going to advance?
Oh man, that's a tough one. See, I'm voting for Byrd.
I know you're voting for Byrd. Who do you think is going to advance?
I'm voting for Byrd, and I believe that he's got a good chance of advancing. My fear is that the lack of funds. He doesn't have a lack of work, that's for sure. He's everywhere all the time. Yeah. So he doesn't have a lack of work. He's got signs all over the place. I've seen a mailer or two, but I got to tell you, the lack of funds is a huge problem in a statewide race. I mean, it's not like you're running for county commissioner, right? You've got to cover some ground, and you've got to build up that name recognition. So I'm sticking with Byrd. I'm rooting for Byrd. I hope Byrd gets through, and that's who I'm going to choose at this point in time. But I'm going to caveat with this: I have not been one of those divisive Byrd Reichard people that you've seen on Facebook and that you talk to out on the streets and all that. That's a bunch of BS. Those people need to chill out, figure out the realities of moving forward as a party. Because when they beat each other up so much to the point where, almost to the point where there's no reconciliation between some of these people.
Yeah, we saw that in 2020. Yeah, because of Joshua Freed versus Culp, they did not manage to ever really work it out. They did support each other somewhat by saying they supported each other, but they still couldn't stand each other.
But they didn't get out and do anything for each other.
No. And they both lost.
That's what has to happen. So once again, I'm a not Ferguson guy.
Yeah.
So what I see happening here is whoever gets through the primary, the winner needs to win with gratitude. And the loser needs to lose with enthusiasm for the winner. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because what's going to happen here is that if they continue to fight with each other, and I blame the candidates as much as I blame the supporters, because they fan the flame, maybe not out in public, but in the back rooms, to their supporters to get after it, right? So I blame the supporters and I blame the candidates. But the reality is, when it's all said and done, if we can't get behind whoever that victor is, it's just another loss. And we can look back on it and we can say, okay, well, that was just another example of Republicans doing the Democrats' work for them. because both sides go out and they dig up as much dirt as they can on each other, destroy each other to the point where neither one of them, where either one of them is going to have so many struggles in the general. I mean, heck, we even had some idiot, I don't know who it was, some idiot Republican that made an entire website against one of the Republican candidates. I mean, that's pushing.
That was you're talking about the Bird docs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all know who made it. I'm not going to state the guy's name.
Well, I think that information was going to come out anyway. I have a different opinion about this guy. While you may not agree with how he did it, I will tell you that he is a very intelligent guy. He's been a former chairman. He's a friend. I think that information was certainly some of it was information that Bird needed to answer, because you think Bob Ferguson's not going to hit him with that stuff. So in a way,
some of it is.
If Semi Bird did advance, he did him a favor, because now he's been inoculated from some of this stuff. It's already out. Had we waited until the general and Bob Ferguson had all this fresh information, there's no time to recover. That's what I hate about Washington State. In once our primary's done, we have 3 months of the general. Yeah, we have 3 months of the general. So if you get hit with a surprise, there's no time to recover. So
if you have a surprise, there's no time to put it in place. Look at the Gilday Shavers result last time around, right? Mm-hmm. You think about this. So I had information about 30 days before the actual election day shared with me, and I told this person, if you believe that Shavers truly was lying about his military record and that he was misleading people about his residence and all this kind of stuff, I said, first and foremost, you better make sure it's true. If you can't prove that it's true, don't throw it out there. But if it's true and you know it's true and you can prove it's true, you need to get it out now, because we don't have an election day in Washington State. We have an election month, which creates an entire disaster for all elections across the board. There's just no viability in post 3 weeks prior to election day. Might as well just give up campaigning at that point in time, So
I do believe that we should probably vote closer to election day. I'm a big fan of that. So, but it is what it is, and we live in the state that we do, and the rules are the rules. So we've got to figure out how to win with those. But you just hit a good point. With Clyde Shavers, there were some questions in the governor's race about one of our candidates having to do with the same issue. And some of the information that was put out is pretty compelling. And so
I would say compelling, but I wouldn't say proof. I've been in the military for 21 years. I know people that served with Mr. Byrd and who say that what Mr. Byrd is saying is truly his record and who he is. I don't know these two people that came out against him. I'm not blaming them. They can have their opinions. But man, just to come out and blast somebody out of the blue and not be willing to stand up and say who you are and why you're doing it.
I do wish they had put their name down, so that way we could hold actually have a conversation and go over it. But I guess they didn't want the public scrutiny. But I will tell you, I trust Jason Rance as a conservative. I trust John Carlson.
I trust Jason. I trust Carlson. Those are all friends of mine. I enjoy their shows. I still listen to their shows. And even though we differ on our view with the Byrd Reichard thing, we agree on everything else. So you think 90% agreement is probably pretty acceptable, right?
Yeah, no, it is. And one of the reasons I'm concerned about this race is that there are people who support Byrd, and they'll support him no matter what. And if Reichard does advance, which it looks like he will, you may not agree, but it's based off everything I've seen. It's looking like he's going to advance. We were looking at the same stuff when Matt Larkin was running for Attorney General. I was telling you I was pretty confident that he was going to advance. Some people were telling me, no, we think it's going to be Mike Vaska. I was like, you guys are not looking at any of the polls, are you? Because Mike Vaska didn't win a single one. And Mike Vaska got third place. Mike Vaska lost to Brett Rogers. Mike Vasco definitely lost to Matt Larkin, and I would say that right now Semi Bird is showing the same signs that Vasco was, except one worse. Semi Bird doesn't have any money. Mike Vasco at least had money.
At least had money, yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing. So once again, I'm a Bird guy, and I'm going to stick with him until we hit the finish line. But you know me, Richard. I am a campaigning, get out the vote, in your face, work my butt off guy. And so regardless of who wins, that's the person I'm going to get out there and work for. And so my whole goal here is to not allow, Ferguson first and foremost, but not allow any Democrat a free ride. Even oh gosh, Dick, that's the dog.
Yeah, there you go.
No dog.
All right. Well, it looks like we've lost Tim Hazlow, but that's okay. He will come back. It is important to note that we are currently past the primary time. So if you have not voted, it is too late to vote in the primary, but I encourage you to vote in the general. Let's see here. Now it looks like I've frozen. Can you hear me, Tim?
Yeah, I got you back now. You got me?
Yep.
All right, cool.
I can't see my face. Yeah, that's so strange. Let me try and see if I can fix that. Here we go. The trouble with Facebook Live. So fun.
Well, we can keep talking while you're doing that. So that brings me to the Dave Paul race and Gary Ray, right? When I say that I have to work my butt off to ensure that we're getting Republicans and conservatives in office. So, like I said, that brings me to Dave Paul and Gary Ray.
Yeah.
Gary needs to get going. I'm not going to mix words here. Gary is behind the curve, not just a little bit, way behind the curve. I think last time I looked at his PDC, he had the $5,000 that he got from ATROC. I mean, Gary, make some phone calls, brother. Get some signs made. Get out there and shake some hands. You're not going to do this on your good looks. But we have to run somebody against Dave Paul because he's he's vulnerable. He truly is. If you talk to the people at the state, they say, hey, if you get a solid candidate in that LD10 district against Dave Paul, you can beat him. So I'm hoping that Gary Ray can step up and get that done, and I'm going to support him and help him in any way I can. But boy, he better get off the stick, brother.
Well, I think a lot of the problem that we're sort of back. You can see my green screen.
That's right. You can see my green screen too back here. It's actually multicolored. There's no green screen back there.
Oh well. But I think if we're going to be looking really closely at how well Gary does. If Gary comes within a close margin when he has spent no money, and he pulls within close, I think you're going to see a lot of money come into that race.
I agree.
Some of the issue was he did enter in late, and he was a reluctant candidate. He signed up because nobody else would, and people pushed him to run, and he did run, and now he is doing the absolute best he can with the situation he has.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna get behind him, and we're gonna do what we can for him. But 90% of the race is on the candidate. So
yes, it is. Yes, it is. I would tell you that I fully expect once we get into the general that Gary Ray is going to be raising a lot of money, especially if he comes within 2 or 3 percentage points of Dave Paul.
Yeah. So when you talk to people at ATROC, when you talk to people who've run these campaigns before, going into the general, they're looking at the how close the race was. I mean, if you were ahead of your opponent, of course you're getting all the support in the world. There's no doubt about that. They're going to help and push you in. If you're within a few points, they're going to try to help you out a little bit. If you're down 7, 8, 10 points, you're written off, and that's unfortunate, but it's kind of the way of the world. There's only so much money to go around. So the big state, the big donors spend that money on the candidates that they think are viable. And if you're not within 8 or 10%, I can give you a perfect example. When I ran for Congress,
We've got some results. You ready?
All right, shoot them.
All right. So right now I'm looking at Pete Serrano. Now these results obviously are going to change wildly, but Pete Serrano is sitting at 71.18% of the votes. Well, I mean, that tells me he's probably going to advance, but yeah, we need some more votes to come in right now. They're only counting about 6,000 votes, but right now, apparently that was one of our favorite counties. Let's see here.
Are you looking at the state site or the county site?
State site, right now it looks like Bob Ferguson has 59%, which is not good. But again, only 175%. Let's see here. How many total votes out of, well, it doesn't say how many total, but it's not, it's less than 250,000 votes.
Right.
Dave Reichert, right? Yeah. Dave Reichert is sitting at 62,000 votes. Mark Mullet is actually performing well. With 22,000. So we've got the top four are Bob Ferguson at the top with 59%, Dave Reichert with 21% in second place, Mark Mullet with 7.75% in third place, and Semi Bird in fourth place with 3.24%. So I again, these numbers are going to change wildly.
I mean, this is like 1% of the vote or some weirdness. Like it's not even showing you what the percentage of the vote that is.
Yeah, and then for lieutenant governor right now, we've only got a couple thousand votes where Bob Hagelin and Dan Matthews are at the top of the ballot, and they're the two who are going to advance. So we need more results in. So don't take anything that you see right now as fact. It doesn't make any sense. Just wait for some more results to come in. Let's see here. This is according to the AP. So I'm going to need to take a look at the actual Secretary of State site, but that's what.
Yeah, I'm on the Secretary of State site right now, and I wonder if they're going to put out multiple results tonight, or if they're just going to throw one result out. You remember how they did it last time in the primary? They gave one result at like 8:15, and then we sat there for the rest of the night and didn't get another count until like 4 p.m. the next day.
Well, I think we are going to. We've got to see some more results. It just wasn't very many. These are just a couple thousand votes, so I think that's going to get updated. And we've got somebody who is watching in Hong Kong and wanted to make sure that they mentioned it in the comments. Well, thank you, Evelyn. We are excited to chat with you. We are just talking Washington State politics right now, and looks like I think from the governor's race, we're able to see enough information that it looks bleak for Mr. Semi Bird advancing in the primary. Although we are talking, it looks like it's changed a little bit already. So this is updating.
It is updating, yeah. So I'm looking at the state site right now. Are you still looking at the AP?
I am still looking at the AP. What are you seeing on the state site for governor? Let's just see if they match. Pull up governor.
Yeah, give me a second. So the state site is not reporting anything.
Monsters. Well, the AP is, and the AP right now dropped Bob Ferguson down to 56%, bumped Dave Reichert up to 22%. Mark Mullet still sitting in third place, and Semi Bird is sitting at 4.58%, which is a bump for him. So we will see.
Well, I'm looking at the LD10 results on the state site.
What do we got?
Now, mind you, this is initial, but it's got, and it's not giving us percentages because there's so few votes in, but it's got Ron Mazzal with 5,500 votes, Janet St. Clair with 6,300 votes. and then
Oh,
Denny
wow.
Sandberg, who is the other Democrat, with 615 votes. So obviously, that's just Langley, Washington reporting right there.
Yeah, that looks like a lot of Langley. I don't expect it to go that way, and that's
totally opposite of what I thought. But if you look down at the position 2 with Dave Paul and Gary Ray, what you were talking about, keeping it close, 7,000 for Dave Paul, 5,000 for Gary Ray. I mean, if that percentage holds,
not that close. That's not that close.
If that percentage holds close and gets closer over the time, 5,000. If that's Langley, I mean, who knows? They're not saying where these votes came from.
All right. Are they showing the county commissioner races?
Let me go look.
Let's see.
They are not on the state site. So I'm going to go to the county site. Stand by.
Yeah. So that what you just said, 5,000 to 7,000, puts Gary Ray at 41.5%, which is not close.
No.
So hopefully that changes. I am very hopeful that was a lot of Langley, or we are in for a rude awakening come the general election. So, and you know what? Yeah. How about County Commissioner District 1? That's what I'm most interested in hearing about right now.
County site hasn't been updated yet.
Come on, Sheila Kreider.
It's Island County, man. Come on. I think
well, that's so strange, because if we haven't come out with any votes yet, that means that it couldn't have been Langley.
Oh, now that's true. Or they're just not reporting on their website yet, right?
I guess that's probably true too. Yeah, well, yeah. I think they have to report the SOS before they put it out. So
yeah.
So all right.
Why don't you pull up? Do you have that? What is that? That Island News site? Is there some news site out there right now that just came out within the last 6 or 8 months? I haven't looked at them because it's been kind of flaky. But let's go to the Whitney News Times. What do they got going?
Let's see here.
Let's see. I doubt if they're going to do any live updates.
No,
I mean, it's a little organization, so yeah, they don't have anything.
Yeah. Oh, so for people who are wondering where I am finding these results, I will go ahead and put the link in the comments section. It's the AP reporting, so I mean it's not as good as the Secretary of State site, obviously. So what the heck? I just hit enter. There it is. All right. So now it is in the comments. So go ahead and click on that link, and it should take you right to what I'm looking at. And let me go ahead and update this.
Well, and they just updated the LD10 results a little bit. So now Ron's at 6,700. St. Clair's at 7,700.
I've got something to report now. I actually have something to report. The AP has made the calls on who is advancing in the primary. They have declared Bob Ferguson the Democratic nominee for the primary of Washington State. No surprise there. And Dave Reichert has advanced as the Republican nominee. And that's not really a surprise to me either. So Dave Reichert has advanced. Dave Reichert is the Republican nominee. It will be a Bob Ferguson versus Dave Reichert race. So that is exciting news. Let's see what they're saying for Lieutenant Governor. For Lieutenant Governor, Denny Heck is above 50%, which is not good news.
That's kind of be expected, though.
Right, and then another Democrat takes another 9%, so that puts them at 60. Right now, Bob Hagelin and Denny Heck are pretty close. I think they can go ahead and call, or Bob Hagelin and Dan Matthews are pretty close. Right now, Dan Matthews is in the lead. So we will see. We shall see what happens. I still think there's a lot of votes left to count. I'm surprised they haven't already called it for Denny Heck, though. They already called it for, I guess they're just not paying attention to that race.
Probably not. I mean, it's not a big race, so we think it's a big race because we live here.
Right. Let's see what's going on in District 2.
You know what?
Are you ready for this? You ready for this?
Yeah.
Rick Larson obviously is advancing.
Yeah.
He's got almost 50%. He's going to advance, and we've got Cody Hart. Cody Hart is going to be the Republican nominee running against Rick
What's he
Larson.
got?
He's got 20%. Leif Johnson got 10.
What about I guess that pretty. What about Jason Call?
Jason Call, the Green Party crazy, is at 3.12%.
Oh,
Jason Call has the least number of votes of any candidate running.
Thank you.
And I'll tell you, it's because he ran as a Green Party candidate. He didn't run as a Democrat. Yep. You have to pick a party. I know people don't think they should have to, and you're right. You shouldn't have to. You should be able to be independent.
You've been saying that for 4 years. You and I have been talking about that. If
you don't pick a party, you are going to lose. And I will tell you, one of the big examples of that from 2020, if you remember, was our insurance commissioner race. We had a very qualified guy run as a libertarian. I forget his name. What was his name?
You're talking about. I totally know who you're talking about. Great guy too. I still picture his sign. It was black with gold letters.
Yep.
Oh,
he was marching with Culp and Brumbles and Rogers. He would have been solid. And he lost to a Republican who didn't have a single qualification and was a little bit off. Because he didn't pick a party. We told him, dude, just put R next to your name and be a libertarian, right?
Yep. I agree.
But he wanted to win a race as a libertarian, and
I'm looking. There's some other congressional races in the state of Washington, not CD2, that are very, very interesting to look at. I'm trying to find those right now.
Yeah, it looks like House Congressional District 3, Joe Kent will advance and go against the incumbent Marie Perez.
What's the other Republican doing in that?
The other Republican got 12%. So if you do the math, the Republicans there got more votes so far. So if Leslie Llewellyn's votes go to Joe Kent will be the next congressman from District 3. So I strongly encourage Republicans to get out and vote in District 3 because that is a flippable district. Obviously, the Democrat incumbent did well because her Democrat opponent only got 2,700 votes, so it wasn't a serious race. Now, Dan Newhouse and Tiffany Smiley, it looks like Jared Sessler has the most votes of anyone.
Yes.
And it looks like
right there.
And it looks like Dan Newhouse is going to advance with him, and Tiffany Smiley's right on those coattails. So the top 3 vote getters are Republican. So it's going to be it's going to be Jared Sessler versus Dan Newhouse. What would be great if it was Jared Sessler and Tiffany Smiley.
Yeah, that would be the dream team.
It looks like it's going to be Jared Sessler versus Dan Newhouse, which tells me Jared Sessler is the next congressman from the 4th Congressional District.
Oh yeah, 100%. If it's Jared and Newhouse is done.
Newhouse is done. I will say Newhouse will be able to pull in the Democrat votes, which are not insignificant, right? But the Democrats only have 20% of the vote here, no less. They've got 18% of the vote.
Well, maybe they're just not voting, though, right? That would be an interesting scenario.
So we may have a Joe Kent, Jared Sessler going to Congress, which means Washington State will put 2 pretty solidly conservative people into Congress, which is interesting. So right now, okay, we've got a new update. I'm
trying to get something from the Seattle Times because they're closer to home.
Dude, Pete Serrano is it's not unexpected that he would be the number 1 vote getter because he's the only Republican. The 2 Democrats are splitting. Right. It is looking like it's going to be Pete Serrano versus Nick Brown. Manka Dhingra. Unfortunately, though, the problem is Pete Serrano right now is only looking at like 41%, which means 59% of the state, which means a good chunk of the state is going Democrat for that attorney general role. So we've got some work to do there for sure.
Yeah. Well, look over there at the Secretary of State, Steve Hobbs and Dale Whitaker. You're talking 50% for Hobbs, 36% for Whitaker. But even if you pull those other percentages up to those, there's nothing else to add to Dale's ticket there.
Yeah.
Marquise Tiggs is all Republican, and I don't know who this Damon Townsend is. So,
all right. So we've got for Senate, we can now call it. It is officially Maria Cantwell versus Raul Garcia. Maria Cantwell, unfortunately, is sitting at 57.5%, which means there's a lot of room to cover. So that is scary for a general. Now that doesn't give up, but that's rough to see. Welcome to Washington State, guys. Right now, with the good news for us right now is that Bob Ferguson's under 50%, significantly under 50%. He's at 45. That tells me that a lot of these votes down here, and I think that 9% of Byrd supporters will go. They're not going to go to Bob Ferguson. Bob Ferguson can't count a single one of those votes. No. I think Reichert will pick up most of them.
And yeah. I think I'm pretty also pick up campaign. So he's going to. I think 99% of these people are going to go and vote for Reichert against Bob Ferguson. I don't think there's that much pettiness out there. They all know that we can't have Ferguson.
Do we have any local results yet?
I'm not seeing it, man. But I'm looking at all the congressional results right now. So here's one that's interesting. Go look at this one, the 6th.
All right.
So Emily Randall, the Democrat, sitting at 33%, and this Drew McKeown is at 30,000. So 33,000 and 30,000. So it looks like we're definitely going to have an election there. You look at Hillary Franz, though. That's another 25,000 votes that would go Democrat. So
who was the incumbent in the 6th?
I thought it was Hillary Franz, wasn't it?
No, Hillary Franz was our Commissioner of Public Lands. Wasn't the incumbent in the 6th a Republican? Wasn't that Kathy McMorris Rogers' seat?
It might be. Maybe that's an open seat, and that's why it's going the way it's going.
Well, these numbers suck because it shows the Democrats getting 58% of that tells that's not done. They've got more votes to count. They've got more votes to count. Don't freak out yet. Let's not even freak out about that one.
No, not at all. I mean, that's a 500,000 vote district.
Yeah.
And they're looking at what, 30, 60, 70, 80, 95,000 votes out there right now. So
yeah,
that's not even close to done.
The 7th district, Pramila Jayapal, she's got 78%. So 7th district is very happy being crazy.
Well, look at the 8th. Look at the 8th, though. I just had a conversation with Carmen 2 days ago, Saturday. I was in Redmond at the Trump fundraiser down there with DeSantis. I'll send you a picture, man. It's pretty cool. I had him sign one of my Navy hats for the guys on the base. But Carmen was there. And we had a conversation, and I told her, I said, I was feeling pretty good about your race. So look at her in the 8th. That looks pretty good, man, for a Democrat or for a Republican.
It doesn't to me yet. And the reason it doesn't look good in the 8th right now is because if you put all of the Democrat votes together, you're looking at about 55% for Democrats, 44% for Republicans. But we've got more votes to count, a lot more votes to count. Well, the 8th is one of the most populous districts.
You got to realize, too, that Republicans typically aren't primary voters. I mean, if you look at the general election results and compared to a primary, Republicans get out a lot more in the generals than they do in the primaries.
Well, we can call the 10th can be called right now. Believe it or not, I believe Nirav Sheth was going to advance. He was the Republican choice. He was the endorsed candidate by the Washington State Republican Party.
Sure was.
He was also endorsed by all the local Republicans, and he lost to Don Hewitt, who is the state committee man of the Thurston County Republican Party, I believe.
Yeah, no, he is. Yeah,
and so Don
Solid
Hewitt
guy,
Republican. Too. So Don Hewitt will be the Republican candidate in the 10th congressional district. So that is an interesting race. We've only got 10. Let's take a look at the first. Susan Del Bene won. I'm not even going to read the Republican ones. I'm not even going to read the Republicans. It's not even worth talking about.
She's self-financed. She doesn't need money. She's a millionaire on her own, with lots of name recognition, and she's been doing it for a while.
So Rick Larson right now is sitting at 50.4%, which isn't great for an incumbent.
No.
But if you
Once
look at the
again,
other
look at the votes
Democrats,
counted.
right, so then it'd be 54, 58, 59,
Mhm.
61. So, yeah, about 61% of the voters did not vote Republican so far. There's still a lot of votes to count. They haven't even counted who won.
Yeah.
Now, for lieutenant governor, there's some updates. Right now, it looks good for Dan
I'm gonna
Matthews,
go back over there.
but it is too early to call that one, I think.
I think it's
well,
still a little early on that.
But yeah, I mean, it's. I'm starting to see some separation where I'm getting concerned. But
Yeah. Well, and you know that this site that I'm looking at, the Seattle Times, has an asterisk next to Denny Heck. So I think they've conceded that Denny Heck is going to be one of them.
yes,
Without
so
actually saying it.
Denny Heck has advanced. Yes.
Yes.
So for those of you guys who have not been paying attention, I'll go ahead and give you the updates on the things that we know. We have called the governor race in the primary. The two candidates going forward will be Bob Ferguson, no surprise, and for the Republicans, Dave Reichert has advanced. Although Semi Bird has come up a little bit. You know, he's at 9% now. He was at 4%. So he has pulled ahead of Mark Mullet. If this was a race for third place, he'd be there.
Well, everything that Bird and Lawson pulls, you've got to count that towards Reichert. If this holds, Bird's and Lawson's votes are going to go towards Reichert. So we want Bird and Lawson to build it up, and we want Mullet to fall further behind, right?
Yeah.
Gosh, we got because even Reichert's way too far back right now.
Right, and Sandy Peterson also just commented. She put out the numbers right now for Ron Mazzal and for Janet St. Clair. 63-60 for St. Clair. Ron has 55-27. That is very scary for Ron Mazzal, although that's not that many votes. I feel like we're missing a good chunk. So I'm not ready to panic yet, but I think this is going to be a night where Republicans can go ahead and panic because it's not looking great. I will say the one positive news for Republicans right now, congressional-wise, is it does look like the 3rd congressional district is going to come back.
Hold on, breaking news. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Results just came out. 825. Ron Mazzal has 11,551. Janet St. Clair has 10,775.
Ron Mazzal back in the lead. All right. Whoa.
Back in breaking news, man.
Sandy Peterson, stop freaking me out for no reason. I didn't look for a reason. I was waiting for some of the results to come out. All right. So it looks like Ron Mazzal is ahead. Tell me about LD10 House races.
Oh, wow. Here's a big surprise. Kerry Kennedy is over Yvonne 6,000 to 4,000.
That's not surprising to me.
No, that's total surprise to me.
I told you guys, I've been saying it over and over again that Kerry Kennedy has name recognition in Island County, which is the most populous county in LD10. Now, Yvonne, sweet lady, love her to death. She did not invest enough time here.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna be nice in that comment, but Clyde Shavers is crushing both of them combined. So
what's his percentage? What's his percentage?
He's at 52.
Yep, that's about right. I figured he'd probably be.
If you combine the other two, they're at about 46, 47.
Okay. So let me ask you this question. How about Gary Ray, Dave Paul?
Well, the Gary Ray, Dave Paul is a lot closer than I thought it would be. It's 13,000 to 10,000, Dave Paul.
What's the
55-44. 55-44. That's still closer than I thought it would be.
That's, having Gary Ray having spent no money. That
Zero.
That is close.
Well, he's getting the Republican vote, right? I mean, you're going to get a certain group of people that vote for you just because you're an R or just because you're a D. So until we get deeper into these weeds, I think that's what we're seeing right here is the hard Ds and the hard Rs that voted early. That's what I think we're seeing.
Probably. But I'll tell you, so you said it was 4,000 to what? Or what was Kerry Kennedy versus Yvonne?
4,698 is Yvonne. 6,523 is Kerry.
That's significant. That's not a small lead.
No, that's 8 points.
I would look. They don't change that much. All right. So I think Kerry Kennedy got it.
There's only 23,000 votes out there, man.
That's significant enough for us to know. That look,
Yeah.
if it was closer, I'd tell you.
Yeah, it'll be
gotta wait a
interesting to
little
see.
bit. And I'm not
It'll be
calling it
interesting
yet,
to
but
see.
I think we might be calling Kerry Kennedy and congratulating her on being the Republican nominee for
We might have to.
yeah. And so we've got Kerry Kennedy who's going to advance in LD10. Of course, Gary Ray advanced, and we're going to be looking to see if he gets close. I think if he can close the gap to under 5 points, having spent no money, he's going to see a lot of money get invested in his campaign.
Oh yeah, no, there's no doubt. And even if he doesn't close the gap, the reality of that campaign, the reality of that election is it's not on anybody's radar for the primary because there is no primary per se, right?
So are we seeing District 1 returns? District 1's the big one, and then I want to see what Jill Johnson's returns are.
Man, Island County website is just not updating anything. It's still showing me the March 12th presidential primary.
Come on, Kreider.
Get with the tickets, Baggy. Let me see if I can find a different. Hang on for a second. Let me see if I can find something different. See what you can find. See if there's another avenue.
I'll pull up some stuff. All right. So for those of you who are just tuning in right now, we've got results for the Senate. It's going to be Maria Cantwell, who's crushing it, and Raul Garcia, who's going to have a lot of work to do. But Raul's a good guy, and I know he's up for it. So Raul Garcia will advance. In the Senate for governor, it's going to be Bob Ferguson versus Dave Reichert. Dave Reichert has been announced the winner by the AP, and it's not close, guys. For those of you who are still holding out hope for Semi Bird, it's not close. It's Semi Bird, I will say, had a very, very, very good ground campaign. Now's the time to say some positive things about Semi Bird. For somebody who had no money, he probably had the most impressive ground campaign I have ever seen.
Yeah, he was everywhere all the time. I got to give him that.
I saw him 5 times. I only saw Dave Reichert 2 times. And just to show you the difference, I supported Dave Reichert. I wanted to see Dave Reichert. I only saw Dave Reichert twice. And I had to go travel to see him one of those times. And I mean to the east. Semi Bird came to me 5 times. So Semi Bird, I think the baggage was too much, and I'll tell you what really got him. Nobody's going to believe me. It wasn't the baggage that got him. It wasn't the stuff in his past. What got him was the lack of funding. What got him was the lack of name ID and the ability to get that name ID through funding. Oh, Sandy Peterson says Island votes are on the SOS site. Click on the SOS site and then click on Island County.
Okay, heading that way.
Thank you, Sandy.
I wonder why they wouldn't be on the Island County page. That makes no sense.
Yeah, Sandy. Why do you think that is? That's not.
Come on, Sandy.
I'm sorry. So thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate that. That helps. We've been looking at the wrong page this whole time. So let's see here.
Oh, geez.
What?
So I typed in Washington Secretary of State and it wanted me to buy the website.
Oh, do it.
I should. Wouldn't that be great?
All right. So Secretary of State. I think it's sos.gov, right?
Yeah. www.sos.wash.wa.gov. Yeah.
Yeah. Secretary of State site. Elections. I'm clicking on elections now. Come on. Don't mess with me right now.
August 6th.
Info for the voters, candidates, campaigns, county elections offices. Okay. Sandy, is it under data and research, Sandy? Just type yes if it is. Data and research? I'm under elections and I'm trying to figure out where this I usually go through the
county site.
The county site. So this is the first time I'm using the statewide site. So I click on the tab of elections and I see info for voters, for candidates and campaigns, initiatives, outreach, data, and research. It's got to be data and research. It's the only thing that makes sense. Current ballot election return statistics sounds promising.
Yeah.
And we've got Island County with 62,000 voters, 32% returned. All right, that's not what I'm looking for. Turns my age. Okay, this is actually just the statistics. I want the actual results. So let's see here. Election results and voters pamphlet also sounds promising. 2024 primary results. Legislative, judicial, federal, home. Come on. So for the local races.
About the office elections. Voters candidate initiatives, outreach, data. Boy, I tell you what, they couldn't make this any easier if they tried.
I know. I just clicked on Island. Why are they showing me LD24? Don't make fun of me. That's all right. But yes, Ron Mazzal is out ahead. Yep. Now, if you add Denny Sandberg's votes, though, to Janet St. Clair, it's within 100 votes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's
the Democrats winning. So yeah. I would say both of them have something to look at. Kerry Kennedy is eating Yvonne's lunch. I'm sorry.
Yvonne doesn't have any lunch. Come on.
And Clyde Shaver's sitting about 52, 53%, which, yeah, that's kind of what I figured right now. I'm not seeing any local races, though, and I don't see a local option.
Hang on. I think I found it. Yep, here we go. All right, let's look. I'm going to put my glasses on, so don't tease me for being old.
I will not.
You're going to tease me later. All right. Congressional district, governor. Hang on. Let me scroll all the way down. Legislative District 10, just in Island County. So this is where Kerry's getting her votes. Island County, she's at 29%, and Yvonne's at 13%. Yep. Dave Paul's at 59%. Gary Ray's at 40%. County Commissioner District 1. It has Melanie Bacon at 37%. This is a worst case scenario right here.
I told
Melanie
you.
Bacon at 37%, Maurice Shimada at 29%, and then Steve Myers pulling up third at 24%. Wanda Groen trailing quite a ways behind at 8%.
So, Republicans, let this be a lesson to you, okay? I specifically said from the very beginning, if we have two Republicans running in the first district, we are not going to advance. And now it looks like we have two Democrats. And ladies and gentlemen, I will be throwing my support behind Melanie Bacon because I think she's at least got the experience. So we now have two Democrats.
Less of a whack job. I'll go ahead and say it.
Well, and experience, right? Melanie Bacon could probably give us some input on how to get a new prison, whereas I think Maurice Shimada probably doesn't have the experience yet. God dang it, guys.
Well, and there's no votes in. There's 5,000 votes in. There's a lot of votes out there to get. But 4% is going to be hard for Steve to overtake on Marie. Now, mind you, you got to realize, and Sandy will probably back me up on this, the votes that are being counted right now are the votes that have been sitting in the ballot box or sitting in the auditor's office for 2 weeks already. So these are all the early votes.
I will tell you, though, here in Island County, the votes don't change that much. And when I ran for treasurer, I was sitting at 43% the first day. And then I did get a swell, and it took me all the way to 44%. So if I remember that. So if you're more than 3 points, more than 4 points, more than 5 points behind, it's not happening for you. I'm sorry.
Well, here, let's look at District 2. So you've got Jill Johnson at 36.
Okay.
Christina Elliott at 37.
Get the fuck out of here.
And then Phil Collier at 26, which Jill will pick up all Phil's votes.
Jill will pick up all of Phil's votes. All right. So, right. But
Jill's got this, but just the fact that Christina Elliott, an absolute newcomer, nobody even knows who she is. I met her at the county fair. Nice lady, don't get me wrong, but nobody knows who she is. The fact that she's at 37%, mind you, only 2,683 votes have been counted. But to say that she's at 37%, I mean, I got to say that's pretty impressive.
Well, I will say this about Christina Elliott: she is a social media influencer, and she has a business that she has multiple social media sites. She is very well spoken. Yeah. She is she's young, she's youthful, she brings energy. So those are things that count for her. But with Phil Collier getting that much, that the lion's share of that is going to go back to Jill Johnson. So Jill Johnson should get about 57% of the vote. So Jill Johnson's, we're not going to say she's safe, right?
I'm calling Jill at 60% in the general.
She always gets 60%. Honestly, she's a savage.
Well, here's some good news.
Give me some good news.
Supreme Court Justice position 2. It's
Dave
looking like, as far as Island County is concerned, right? This isn't going to advance anybody, but it's Island County. Dave Larson's at 38%, and Sal Munguia is at 39, almost 40%. So there's only a couple percentage points separating the top two.
So I've got the statewide results.
What's the statewide?
Sal Munguia at 41%, Dave Larson at 37%. So Dave Larson has a chance.
It's pretty close.
And so there's no political parties with that one. That's just, basically a judicial doctrine. How do you see it? The biggest issue that I see with Supreme Court justices is how do you see the Constitution? And the biggest argument that we have is, do you see it as a document that is what it is and it says what it says and it doesn't change until the people change it? Or do you see it as a living, breathing document that changes with the people without a vote of the people? And that is the biggest argument that you have there.
No, that's exactly the argument, yeah.
So I think Dave Larson, he's looking pretty good, so good for him. Nobody got over 50, so that's a winnable race. I'm going to tell you my biggest surprise. My biggest heartbreak tonight. I have two big heartbreaks. My biggest heartbreak tonight, right now, is Bob Hagelin's numbers, because I think he would have been fantastic.
Yeah,
and he still might be. He still has some votes to go, right? But it's close. So that's one heartbreak. Now, with that said, if it is Dan Matthews will have my full support.
Yep.
But
no doubt about that.
He's a good guy. Let's see here. For Attorney General, Pete Serrano's doing all right. He's sitting at 42%, which means he's got a lot of work to do. But he is going to advance, and he is going to be the number one vote getter, so he will be on top of the ballot come the general. Those are, and then my heartbreaks are Bob Hagelin, and then of course Commissioner District 1. We got two Democrats who advanced, and I kept telling people I had a conversation.
Yeah.
Okay, we had two Democrats that advanced, and I was. Guys,
remember
you gotta live in reality. I told people from the beginning. I remember I had the conversation with Steve Myers. I said, hey, if you get in, my fear is that we're going to have two Democrats on the top of the ballot. I got blown off. Some people even said, well, we might have two Republicans on the top of the ballot in frickin' Langley. Guys, please, from now on, let's live in the reality where not everyone or even a majority of people agree with you in this state. Okay?
Well, you and I said the same thing at the beginning of this race when it comes down to having two Republicans in there. I mean, we have to look back at is just the last time when Melanie Bacon won, right? We ended up with no true Republicans in the race, and Melanie Bacon ran away with it.
Well, Melanie Bacon's going to run. Melanie Bacon's going to run away with it again because I'll tell you, she had the most of the Democrat votes. Right? She's beating Marie Shimada.
Yeah.
And she's going to get the lion's share.
Yeah, Melanie Bacon's 37. right? Let me look at the time. When is the timestamp on this? So it just updated. Hang on, let me refresh it. Oh, they're not updating the timestamp. Still says 8 p.m., but I've seen it update. So let me go back down. Governor, Lieutenant Governor, Secretary of State, Attorney General. Oh boy, you really got to scroll to get down to those local offices, don't you? County Commissioner, District 1. Melanie Bacon's looking at 37%. Marie Shimada, 29%, almost 30, 29.97. And then
that's a significant lead. And I'll tell you, the
Yeah.
Republican Party, the Republicans, they're going to get behind Melanie Bacon. So Melanie Bacon's getting a majority of the Democrats. The Republicans are going to get behind Melanie Bacon. Melanie Bacon's retained her incumbency. In my
and
opinion.
here's the crazy part. Think of this. You can add Wanda and Steve together and not get second place in District 1.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't surprise me, guys. You remember I told you we're dealing with 70% Democrats and we're playing with 30% Republicans. Half of 70 is 35. Half of 30 is 15. The top two vote getters. Come on, guys. Congratulations to Melanie Bacon and Marie Shimada for advancing. Republicans, stop running two people in District 1.
Stop running two people in multiple places.
For governor, that's unavoidable. But for District 1,
Right.
We've got to start being smart.
Well, we tried. We as in the party, we tried to convince. Neither one of them is real committal up front. They were back and forth. Once Wanda got in, I thought it was a done deal. I thought maybe we would get Steve to run for that LD10 position that Gary Ray's in. I think that would have been a much. I think he would have had a chance to win that race.
What's so sad for District 1 for me is that they're both solid candidates.
Oh
and
yeah,
they're great. Both away against each other.
Yeah. Well, here's the reality of it. South Whidbey, and this is Tim who lives on Whidbey Island, is basically the Martha's Vineyard of the West Coast. They are as far left. I'll give you a little story. When I was at the fair, the ice cream booth, you went down there. You were there for a day, but I was there for 4 days. And driving through Langley back and forth to where I was staying, I have never seen in my entire life, and you know me, I've traveled the world, I've traveled the country immensely. I've never seen more virtue signaling of every possible way that you can think of than I have in Langley. We're talking churches with multiple flags out in front of them.
It's no secret that South Whidbey is very, very, very Democratic, which is why if you want to win as a Republican, and we had a real opportunity here. Right. We had an opportunity here because we had a Democrat running against the incumbent. If we had one solid Republican, we could have advanced. However, you just said if you add Wanda's and add Steve's, that doesn't equal second place.
Still doesn't equal. Now I'm gonna hold out hope here because, like I said, I do believe that when I ran for commissioner, even in District 3 where I was running, I was quite a ways behind in District 3 from the get-go. But then I ended up winning District 3 when it was said and done. South Whidbey's what cost me the race, not District 3 or District 2.
Well, South Whidbey got me too, right? If you did the math, I won in Camano, I won in North Whidbey, I won in the second, not by much. I won District 3 by a little bit, I won District 2 by a little bit more, and then I got my throat slit in District 1.
Yeah. It was like 75-25. It was ridiculous.
It was hard.
Yeah. And that was across the board for every candidate. Candidate.
I got 18% in Langley.
Well, here's something to think about. If we would have had the same voter participation in District 2 and 3 as we had in District 1, and the percentages still held out, we would have picked up 3 or 4 different seats.
Well, so that tells you Republicans, you need to start voting, one, and parties, you need to start being strategic. You need to stop being. I mean, passion's good, but if I had to pick between strategy or passion, I tell you to leave your passion at the door. All right.
Well,
we need to start being strategic in our thinking now. So to go over the results again, because we've got about 6 minutes left before I got to close out. Raul Garcia will advance against Maria Cantwell for Senate. Dave Reichert has won as the governor candidate, and we need to support him. We need to get behind Dave Reichert now. The primary's over. We've got to get behind Dave Reichert so that we can stop Bob Ferguson from being the governor.
Because it doesn't look good for LD10.
Yeah. The good news for Republicans, it looks like Dan Newhouse has probably seen his last term. And it looks as though the third congressional district is very winnable. And we may have Joe Kent in there after all. The 8th congressional district is playable, but I would have liked to see a little bit more out of that one. And other than that, there isn't a whole lot of Bob Ferguson did not get 50%. Other than that, Ron Mazzal was ahead, sort of, but if you count the other Democrat, not at the Janet St. Clair, Janet would have been winning by 100. But this does put Ron Mazzal at the top of the ballot. So he is going to be on the top of the ticket. He will win the primary. And so that's all good. And Gary Ray, for having spent no money at all,
not doing too bad.
Did okay. He did okay.
Yeah. Well, and I look at it this way too, because once again, the primaries are hardcore voters. They're not every election voters.
Well, I find the primary is the best poll you will ever do.
It is. It is. Well, it is because people actually spoke.
My primary vote, almost identical to my general vote. I did a little bit better in the general. When I say a little bit better, I mean like by 0.5 points, which tells me that my door knocking and hard work got me 0.5 points. So
I did pretty good in the general, but you're right. It was here's the thing. I want to go back to the party real quick, and not the ICRP or the Washington State Party, but I want to go back. I'm going to tell you now. I don't know if everybody knows this, but I went to the convention this year, the national convention, RNC. And I got to tell you, I have never seen unity like this in my life. In all the years I've been looking at politics, I maybe back in Reagan days, but I was a teenager at that point in time. I wasn't really paying attention. But every single speaker, every single message, every single thought was all in the same direction. There was no deviation whatsoever. There was excitement. There was happiness. There was fear. There was people crying. It was so overwhelming for everybody.
And that's great nationally, but my concern is Washington State is not going to vote for Trump. Not going to happen.
Well, what I'm saying is we can learn from that as the parties here. We can learn from the unity of the National Party and try.
I don't think that's the lesson to learn. The lesson Republicans need to learn here in Washington State is that the far right candidate got trounced by the moderate candidate. The lesson needs to be that we need to find a way to reach across the aisle and start winning moderate and Democrat votes, or we will lose. And while I get that,
back to party unity. I mean, if the party can't get behind, in general, if the party can't get behind a candidate.
Well, yeah, then you're absolutely toast. But I'll tell you, if our party was completely unified right now, that's 43%.
Yeah.
So what we need to do is we need a brand and we need a message that can reach out to 8% more, at least.
Yeah. I think the problem we run into with that is just that we got to figure out the messaging is probably the primary problem we have, because we're not given the platforms that the Democrats are given. So we have to get out there and do the hard work.
But it's not just that. I mean, sometimes the way we talk, we've got some Republicans in our party system who are talking like this is Oklahoma. They go out there and they just attack anyone who disagrees with them. What I try to do when somebody disagrees with me on an issue is I want to discuss it. Sometimes they drop to insults. There are some people that don't really want to talk. They just want to insult you, and that's okay. But
Yeah,
there
yeah.
are people who give me their honest opinion. I give them my honest opinion, and together we usually come up with a solution. That is what
Yeah.
Republicans need to do, and then we need to be okay with the solution that isn't everything you wanted.
Right. I mean, if you can get a high percentage of what you're looking for and have to sacrifice a little bit, that's.
Yeah.
I mean,
That-
you take the wins you can take.
What I urge Republicans to do is I want you to go home. Don't lose all hope, but go home. Realize you are never going to get everything you want in the state. It's not going to happen. It's not in the cards. Accept that as a reality, and then come back to the table and get ready to negotiate for something better. Not what you
Yeah.
want, but something better.
Yeah.
I think
No, I
that's
agree
the
with
lesson that needs to be learned. All right. Well, thank you all so much. It is now 9:00, and I've got to go. Tim, you
Don't
got
forget
one last
the
update?
Constitution Day dinner.
Right. When is that?
September 7th, Constitution Day dinner. We have the founder of Walkaway, Brandon Straka. He's going to be our keynote speaker. You can go to the website, www.islandcountyrepublicanparty.net, to buy your tickets. You can also get them from Richard McQuarrie there. He'll be selling tickets as well as I will. You like that, don't you?
Yeah, no, you put me on the spot. I'm not the state committee man anymore. I don't have to sell anything, but I'll tell people about it.
Yeah,
So
we got you, brother.
all right,
All right.
I will chat with you soon. I've got some phone calls to make. I'm happy for Jill. I'm happy for Ron. I'm happy for a couple of people, but I am not particularly happy with some of these results.
No, I agree. I agree.
The first district is actually hitting me pretty hard because I I love Steve, but I was really hoping for Wanda to be able to go through as well. Now, Steve, don't worry. I didn't vote for Wanda. I'm not in the first district, and I supported them both. I wanted either one of them to get through, but I just thought Wanda or Steve would have just done so much. Particularly Wanda, she knows the budget, and we lost her. And I feel partially responsible for it because our party did not strongly enough discourage another jump into the primary.
We tried pretty hard to discourage.
You know what? Actually, on this one, you're right. We did.
The problem is we had a couple people that really wanted to go, so I mean, it is what it is.
All right.
So,
well, hey, thank
right.
you all for coming, and thank you, Tim, for getting on. And I will chat with you all soon.
Have a good night.
You too.